What's up, Craig? 2 days in a row. It's pretty sweet. How you doing, Craig? So yeah, we did our episode earlier in the week. Haven't produced it. Comes out tomorrow. Not that you're gonna be able to listen to this at the same time, and then Anyways, this one's a smaller episode. Jordan and I, Warhype, are gonna do a God of War episode. So just go ahead and say it now. Spoilers. Not that
spoilers.
Not that anyone's going to come in, but there will be spoilers. So yeah, and then we do have two people just lurking in the background. Maybe they'll say something.
What's up, ho?
Okay, yeah, that guy, and the other one apparently is going to get mad at us for talking. I don't know why. So yeah, we're gonna do an episode, kind of a review and just our thoughts on the new God of War Ragnarok, which is a sequel to God of War 2018, which was a reboot essentially to the franchise. And they went in different direction of mythology. So the first, how many was it? Like 5 or 3 of the main line of the originals?
Well, so there was God of War 1, 2, and 3, and then I think there was God of War Ascension, which I think was a PSP title. Hang on, I'll confirm that. God of War Ascension. No, that was a mainline game, PS3. I think that one involved his brother. Not really, as I didn't play that one. I know there was a PSP title. I think that was Chains of Sparta, Ghost of Sparta, or something.
Yeah.
And then there was some mobile game, which I didn't even know existed, called God of War Betrayal. No fucking idea what that's about. But we could we'll just count the 3 big boys, God of War 1, 2, and 3. Those are the ones that really matter. Maybe Ascension, don't know if it's good or not, but mainly God of War 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, so the older ones, 1, 2, 3, and maybe Ascension and shit like that, they were focusing on the Greek gods. And then 2018, the reboot, it went into Norse mythology. So I guess the first question that I would have for you, do you prefer just what you know of and from the game, playing the games, which mythology kind of do you feel more connected with or whatever, or enjoy more?
I definitely feel more connected with 2018 stuff, but then again, it's also kind of hard to say because they put much more of an emphasis on the story in this one, because the Greek gods were just a bunch of assholes in God of War 1, 2, and 3. They were just, mainly 2 and 3. 1 not so much, but mainly 2 and 3. Because it's basically just a story of betrayal about how, I get spoilers for 1, 2, and 3, but like he's tricked into killing his own family by Ares in the first one. And then Zeus betrays him at the beginning of the second game and kills him, but then he comes back. And then it's just, the whole thing is one big revenge story and how much the Greek gods just suck ass. And there's really not much else to it. But in 2018 and Ragnarok, there's a way bigger emphasis on character development and just overarching story that just ties everything together so much better. So, but the short answer is definitely prefer the Norse mythology. I think their take on it was really cool. Really like the looks that they went with for everybody. And yeah, definitely the Norse for me.
What the frick did I hit? Yeah. I understand that. I do feel like, for whatever reason, the Greek mythology is more expansive and has such a bigger lore compared to Norse. Because when I think of Norse, obviously being like a fan of Marvel and shit, you think of Odin and Thor and like Freya and Freyr, but those are the only like big ones that I know of. And then the Greek is it's so simple because of like Zeus and shit. So I think from just a general person just playing the game and kind of know mythology, they would probably connect with Greek a little bit more, because I feel like Greek has been more adopted in um, our society and shit like that compared to Norse. But with the definitely with the rise of Marvel and with this God of War and shit, Norse is coming up. So, but yeah, the characters, the few gods that are in the Norse games, they feel so much more personable compared to the other ones. Like you were saying, I mean, it's just the first three or whatever is all the Greek gods just being assholes. And I mean, you know, that's kind of what they were, because Zeus was a player. Like, he was banging some chicks on Earth and just laying his seed everywhere and creating whatever left and right. And we think he's, you know, a good god per se, but he was doing some nefarious shit.
Yeah, Hercules was wrong. The Disney Hercules, that's
Oh,
not
yeah,
the
yeah.
right portrayal of Zeus.
Yeah, that's not it. But so for this one, for the big bad, really in Norse, I guess, is kind of Odin. Um, and I feel like he is had such more depth compared to Zeus, at least in the games and shit.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Trying to think. Okay, well, so out of the two games, God of War 2018 and Ragnarok, which one did you? No, wouldn't even say enjoy more, because I would say it's very hard, but just overall, which one do you think is better?
It's hard to say because they're both extraordinarily good games. Oops. Like, there's some things that 2018 did a little bit better, because I will say that Ragnarok has like a couple of pacing issues here and there, like where the story just kind of can come to a halt out of nowhere. And some of it's by player choice, and because it's like, oh, we don't have to go here yet, we can go fuck around and do this. But some of it is also just kind of like, well, it kind of came out of left field, but it's nothing that takes away points for me. I think I have to give it up to Ragnarok. It's too epic, man. It was just too. I've never had a game leave me speechless at the end of it, and Ragnarok had me like speechless after I beat it. So, and I think that's I have to give it up to that.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And I mean, just like in movies, it also happens in video games. It's very hard for the sequel to be just as good, if not better. And I just got the Ragnarok is more polished. The story, like you said, some of the pacing issues or whatever, like it goes from like 0 to 100 real quick at the beginning, and then slows down a little, picks back up, and then it's just kind of you're flowing along, and then bam, you're right there at the end, and it's over 100. So, but yeah, and I mean, they literally did what fans kind of asked. You know, it's like for 2018, from an enemy standpoint, you know, you were kind of fighting the same enemies over and over. There wasn't even real variations of them. Maybe a little bit coloring, but Ragnarok turned it up like five notches on the enemy, like variety and shit, and then the bosses, and then just the storyline and shit. So, I definitely have to get it up to Ragnarok. Out of, let's say, so the newest weapon is the spear or the Dropnir spear. Out of those three weapons that you have, so you get your Chaos Blades, which you get in 2018, kind of what in the middle of the game, end of the game. And then obviously you have your axe. Which one of those three do you prefer to play with or played with most?
Absolutely adore the Blades of Chaos. I've loved the blades ever since God of War 1, and they're just one of those weapons that hit just right. Now I like the axe a lot. The axe is meaty, though I will say it felt a little underpowered in Ragnarok at times. Felt like it didn't. Sometimes it wouldn't really do all that much damage unless you had the permafrost effect on it, or when you build up or whatever, and you can hit L1 and triangle to make it gain a buff. The Dropnir spear. So at first, I did not care for it very much because now keep in mind I played on Gimme God of War difficulties, so experience may vary. The bit right after you get it, and and I don't think you have to use it, but obviously new weapon, you need to fucking slap shit around with it. It was not that great. It was not really doing that much damage. But after getting some upgrades for it and putting some XP into it, it wound up being pretty solid overall. Didn't do as much damage as the other weapons, but it hit faster, and the range capabilities on it were kind of nuts. Because of how you throw spears into enemies and then you could blow it up. Once you got further into the tree and made it so you each explosion would trigger twice, it got pretty nutty with its damage and made some enemies in particular that were really frustrating to deal with not as frustrating. So the spear definitely grew on me, but overall, my favorite weapon, Blades of Chaos.
Yeah,
Definitely
I feel
use
that.
those the most.
The only issue I had really with the blades, it feels like they don't hit as hard, and you're just sitting there slinging that shit, trying to do this long ass combo and hoping it'll stun them just enough where they won't attack you. The Leviathan feels the best because you can combo very quickly, and there's not like a slight delay in hitting them and shit. But yeah, the spear was. I think the spear was interesting. Definitely the lore behind it, and the scene that happens is so epic. I think.
Oh,
with Brock and shit.
scene
Yeah,
that accompanied the spear and getting up to it and everything was incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I'm curious to see, like, I mean, we'll talk about it in a second, but I'm just curious to see if he stays with it and shit like that. Okay, so what did you feel about the combat when you played just as Atreus, not when he was your like companion, him or Freya, but like playing as him in those certain times?
It took some getting used to at first. I didn't love it, didn't hate it at the beginning, but as you got a little further with him and got some upgrades for him, he became better. I'm wondering if they're setting it up to maybe have a standalone game as him in the future, especially with how Ragnarok ends. Could be what they're leaning towards, not sure. But I didn't mind it. As it went on, it got better and better. I didn't really I didn't hate it, I guess is the good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was done well because there was only little parts that you had to play as him, so it didn't feel sluggish, and you didn't have to play with him for an extended period of time. It was just these little bits, and they were really integral to the storyline and shit, especially going into the freaking Asgard and doing stuff with Odin. I loved though when he kind of got his hilt or thing or whatever. He got Ingrid, and then it turns out to be Freyr's. That was awesome.
Yes.
Because like his summons where you get to ride a goat or something. That one I didn't really like, but the whole Ingrid thing, that was awesome. Because he had like it kind of turned over to basically him having his little companion. So that was good. And I mean it just sucks going from playing as Kratos where you're just bashing skulls and then you go into him and you're essentially just hitting them with your bow. So, and then no one wants to play ranged in that type of game. So, but overall, I think, they did a good job not pushing it too much on you.
I think it helped that the story segments that were going on when you played as him were enough to keep your attention as well. I definitely think that helped. Had the moments that you were playing as him not been that interesting, it might have not been as good. But luckily they were able to, really hold your attention, and you were mainly just focused on, okay, well, what's going to happen next here, more so than the gameplay during that part, or during those sections.
Totally agree. So who would you say, besides obviously Kratos and maybe even Atreus, out of Ragnarok or just these two games so far, who's your favorite character?
Brock and Mimir are my favorite characters. Easy.
Yeah, Mimir is just epic. I really like how they made it where if you're just out doing something in the world, they'll kind of they'll point you in a direction. They won't tell you exactly where it is, but they'll also just be dicks to you at sometimes. Like Mimir, he'll be fighting shit, and he's like, what's the point of having a shield if you don't use it? And it's just like, I get it, man. You know what? I'll use the shield next time. But yeah, those little details of pointing you in the right direction. I mean, it's not hard to find all the collectibles and shit, and it's really funny because supposedly, or not supposedly, but I was watching a video. If you were doing the extra or any content, mainly at the end, obviously because of you swap Atreus with Freya, they have different dialogues. If you were doing this thing when you have Freya, like a side content and shit, or if you saved it and we're doing it early on with Atreus, there's an entire different dialogue that each one would say. That's just awesome to me. And it's not
massive attention to detail.
Yeah. And there's still little things that are people were finding, and what's his face was talking about. I think it just surfaced a few days ago. Someone found the tooth, Thor's tooth, when Kratos knocks it out. You have to zoom in and shit. And then there's just, the story is so awesome. And Thor, I think Thor might be my favorite, honestly.
It's a good favorite to have. An amazing character.
Yeah. I'm curious to see. So, have you 100%ed it?
I have not done the 2 difficult fights in the game yet, and I'm missing a couple of lore things, mainly because I don't want the game to be over, because I'll be sad. I'll do it at some point, but I just...
So you're missing Gná, and then who else are you missing?
The Barbarian King.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What I was going to say about the whole, how we're talking about Atreus in the end of the game, he goes off and shit. Slight spoiler for you. It's not huge, but Thrud, Thor's son or daughter, rather. I feel like she might have some part in it if they stay with Atreus and stay in the Norse mythology. And I think she's a really cool character, and she'll hopefully interact with Atreus a little bit more, and then kind of redeem her dad and what that god is. So for main storyline bosses, who do you feel like was one of your favorites?
Really liked Nidhogg or Needhogg, however the hell they pronounced
Yeah,
it.
they pronounce it very weird, but that might actually be the pronunciation in Norse.
I'm just calling it Nidhogg because it's easier. Obviously, the Thor fight at the beginning and the Thor fight at the end were incredible. Those are probably my favorites. Just the fights with Thor, just because such a good character, such a just awesome fighting style. Just when he snaps and brings the hammer back, and like
that snap is so epic.
I don't know how they make a snap so cool, but they managed to do it. I really like the little thing that happens, like whenever I think it's in the first fight where he throws the hammer past Kratos, and Kratos like blocks it with his shield and knocks it behind him, and then he starts running at Thor, and then he snaps, and the hammer comes back and hits Kratos in the back of the head, and Thor goes, "Dumbass." That's probably like one of my favorite interactions in the game.
I wonder if they not stole it, but kind of used the Marvel when Cap threw it at Thanos and shit, and it came back.
Maybe a point of reference.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah.
Yeah, but probably honestly, all the story fights are really. I mean, even Odin's fight is pretty good. But I definitely think the Thor fights and Nidhogg are definitely my favorites.
Yeah, Nidhogg was definitely fun. And I know Kiwi will appreciate this, I loved killing Heimdall.
Oh,
that man was an asshole.
Oh my god. I'm not the greatest fan of his fight. It wasn't bad.
It was okay, but for what you had to do in it was neat.
And I mainly just kind of wish the first phase of the fight where he's on top of the dog, horse, whatever the hell that thing is. I wish that wasn't a thing, because that phase is annoying. But once you get past that, and then it's just you versus him, it's pretty sick. So,
yeah, whoever I don't know the exact person who played that character, but they played him to a T. Because I was watching a video about it, and they were like, "You need to play him this way," and he was like, the actor said, "Are you sure this guy's an asshole?" And the director's like, "That's what we want," and that man nailed it. Yeah.
I don't think I've hated a character that much since like Joffrey, if I'm being honest.
I could see that for the little amount of time that we really got to, see him in game and shit. Yeah, it grew quickly, my hatred for this man, and he's just like a Flash, like the character Flash. He's just zooming around you and shit, and he's like a gnat. You just want to slap him, and then finally, when you get to slow him down and shit, and just brutally murder him. That was an epic scene too, where he didn't stop. He went back to the old Sparta Kratos and just kept mashing this man's brain in.
Yep.
So, yeah. The ending fight with Odin, it was interesting. I don't think it would beat Thor's, or it might not even beat Baldur, honestly, from 2018, but it was a good way to go out. I almost wanted Atreus to see what was in the ripple, or in the rift. But then he closed it and shit, and I was like, damn.
That's maybe another thing that they may tackle in the future as well. But
yeah.
something I'm definitely curious about as well.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how long they come, or how long it's going to be before they come out with a new game, where they want to go, who it's going to be. It's like, is Kratos like kind of done? Because in some ways, I did feel like, not it was a he was losing power or grip on anything, but he just felt slightly weaker compared to any like the older one, 2018 and the first three and shit. And I mean, I understand he's getting older and stuff like that, so maybe he just becomes some kind of, well, I guess now he feels more recognized from the painting and shit. So, uh, well, where do you think, or would you want them to go from any mythology or just any direction?
Some people have been really wanting them to go toward the Egyptian route. You know, well, why not? I mean, we're clapping pantheons. We might as well just move on to the next one. So, I don't know like anything about Egyptian gods. I know like some names, you know, like Anubis and a couple others. But if they want to go that route, I would be down because they've obviously shown that they can make good games, and I think that they could do it. So, and I would be curious to learn about Egyptian lore. Why not? I don't really know where else they could go. They could come to, you know, they could just come to the modern day, maybe, where money is our god.
They're gonna slay like Obama or Trump.
Slay Obama or Trump. Okay.
In game, in game, in game.
In game. But yeah, I don't know. Probably Egyptian. If I mean, they could. I really think the next game is just going to be about Atreus just looking for what's left of the giants, because I think that there's enough there. Because they just said the giants just left, like they're just gone. They just took off and went all over the world, and obviously the world is massive, and there's going to be more threats out there. So I think that that's probably what they're going to lean towards. But then again, who knows? We won't know for at least 2 or 3 years. So
Yeah. Apparently, before they like settled on Norse mythology for 2018, the Egyptian mythology was definitely in the running. So I think they have an idea behind it, and it's just if they want to carry that over and just have him continue through different mythological times and shit. So, because I mean, they said that the Norse mythology is done, but it's just that isn't. It doesn't make sense if you send Atreus. There's too many loose ends. It feels like, at least for Atreus, to find about the giants, to see how him and Angerboda, like, you know, interact and shit. Because in like true Norse mythology, I think they're married and they're the ones who have kids of monster variety, like the world serpent. I think Fenrir is one of theirs. So I'm curious to see if they do any of that or make him older, or if he becomes like the true trickster god. And like in the Marvel movies, he kind of betrays, um, not couldn't betray Odin, but he could betray Kratos to an extent if they wrote it where the giants needed to do something. So I'm still curious also to find more about what's her face, Kratos' wife. Can't think of her name at the moment.
Faye.
Faye. Yeah, there is. If you haven't, have you done everything in the crater?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay, there's a lot of lore there for her. And then kind of when you continue with the Berserkers, I think there's some lore about her. So I would like to know. I think a continuation with just Atreus. I know that kind of would put off a lot of fans, but maybe not even they say like a full AAA game of $70 and shit, but a smaller game for Atreus or even DLC would be awesome. But then for a mainline game, I would like a prequel of 2018. How he gets there, how he interacts with Faye, watching Atreus from a small child and shit, and see if he finds. I mean, he wouldn't have much interaction with any of the gods like Balder and Odin and Thor and shit, but it could just see his journey from the Greek mythology to Norse and shit would be pretty cool.
I would be curious to see it as well, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so from the ball, I know you said you haven't done the two essentially the hardest bosses of the extra content, but which one do you feel like had the harder extra or the side content?
Oh, Ragnarok. Ragnarok is a way harder game, in my opinion. Like, I find it so weird that in God of War 2018, I played through both on the hardest difficulty now. The beginning of 2018 was way harder, and then it got easier as you got upgrades, and especially once you got the Blades of Chaos and got stuff for them, it was, became. I mean, it was still like tough. You still took a lot of damage, and you still had to parry and whatnot. But for the most part, the beginning was brutally difficult, and then it just kind of got easier as it went on. In Ragnarok, the start was pretty simple. Some spikes here and there, but nothing too bad. But then as you hit mid-game and kind of got on, it got nuts. Like some of the side shit would just like kill me in like one hit sometimes. Like literally like one hit. And I had all the health upgrades. So and obviously I don't know about the Berserker King or Gna, but I have done all of the Berserker fights, and I one-shot one of them and killed a couple of them in not so many attempts, but some of them were really, really, really hard. Like the one where you had to fight 3 of them. Good lord.
Oh, with the sisters and shit?
Yes.
That was stupid.
God, man, that was a hard fight. That one and the one where you just had to fight 2 of them, because the thing that would throw me off so much is how they would essentially swap who they were attacking. Like one of them would attack you, one of them would attack Atreus or Freya, depending on who you're with, for a little bit, and then they would swap, because obviously you just want to kill one of them. Like the quicker you kill one and get it out the field, then it's just 1v1 and it's fine, not that bad. But when you're trying to fight 2 of them and they're swapping their targets constantly, it's just like, oh my god. So those 2 fights, and then the one with where he spawns the additional enemies, obviously, that one's similar to it's someone similar to the one Valkyrie in God of War 2018 that did the same thing, but so that one was tough. I wound up just saying fuck it, I'll come back and do that one when I have more gear, and then it wasn't so bad. But yeah, definitely the side content in Ragnarok is infinitely harder than God of War 2018. The only thing that was like really hard in 2018 were the final Muspelheim challenges and the Valkyrie Queen.
Yeah, I mean, but she was just a combination of every single Valk, and then you just had to learn her. She was obviously a little bit quicker.
Yeah, and she had a ton of health. So
Oh yeah,
basically,
it's
just
stupid.
an endurance test more than anything. So like, can you do a Valkyrie fight for like 6 minutes? So
Yeah. I will say the Berserker King. Maybe it's just like I had basically everything upgraded and shit. He wasn't. He was hard. Like he would, if he got a hold of you, you're dying. Um, but he wasn't too difficult. Gna, she took me a minute to beat. I was doing it on a lower difficulty than you, one lower, but she still took me. I think longer than the Valk Queen did. So, well, I mean,
I need to go on one tangent though,
okay.
just one, and it's the people who are calling Thor like fat are just dumb. Like, and it makes me it upsets me because Thor, like, he's big, he's a big guy, but that's mostly muscle. I hope people realize that, because if you look at like the power lifters, like those guys who lift like 900 pounds and crazy ass amounts of weight, that's what they look like. You need that. You need that much weight to be able to fucking hold yourself up when you're lifting that shit. So he's just got that big build. You know, he's not fat. Like, people just think that's like a beer gut. You know what I mean? That's all slosh. It ain't. That's all muscle. And you could tell when he would hit your ass. Like, I don't know. That shit just made me mad. Whenever we're like, oh my god, I hate the way Thor looks. He's fat and all this shit. And it's just because, like, people have been looking at Thor in Marvel and they think he's just some pretty boy. You know what I mean? And I don't mind that look of Thor in the Marvel movies. You know, it's fine. But I absolutely, like, just love the way he looks in Ragnarok. Their portrayal of him in Ragnarok is amazing. So, but he's not fat.
Yeah, I think this Thor is definitely portrayed closer to what actual Norse mythology is. So that's good. But yeah, uh, I mean, just two things overall. What would you give it out of a? So we need a scale, guys. We need like a 1 out of 5. Believe me if you don't. You know, like they some do.
That's the dumbest shit.
1 out of 10.
I am not doing a 1 out of 5. Believe me if you don't. The game is. It's probably an easy 10 out of 10 for me. Like, there are a couple of nitpicks here and there, but nothing that takes away from the score for me. So
Yeah, 100%. Agree. 10 out of 10. Obviously recommend to play that shit. If you just the character alone of Kratos and his development, and then even Atreus is just it's worth it. The gameplay,
absolutely.
the combat, that's just in its own thing. If you know from the older games, this combat, you're just going around slinging shit, hitting shit. It's been great. It's going to continue to be great. So if you want that, then you got that. And then the amount of lore that they put into this and thought and shit, just absolutely amazing. Last question: Game of the year?
It's a hard question, man, because
Very.
it's competing directly with Elden Ring for me. And yeah, I talked to my friend at work about it, and as much as I love Souls games, my love for them is biased, because Souls games, people complain about them being, clunky and all kinds of shit. And I mean, I can't really like argue with it. You know what I mean? Like, Souls games are clunky, but they're kind of just designed to be that way. They're but I don't really want to get into it too much, but I have my reasons for loving the Souls games, and they're not for everybody. So I'm not gonna let my bias get in the way. So I think God of War 2018 is probably my game of the year. Sorry, God of War Ragnarok, not 2018. Yeah, 2018 from 4 fucking years ago is my game of the year, dude.
Well, oddly enough, for this year as well as 2018, I'm pretty sure that's when Horizon came out too. I think the first Horizon.
I haven't played Horizon, so I can't really comment. Because did Forbidden Dawn come out this year too?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah. I've heard great things about that. So.
It came out in 2017, but there was something, I forget what won Game of the Year, but essentially, had that game not came out in 2017, Horizon was a lock. Had God of War, well, I don't know if it would have beat Elden Ring, but from a PlayStation perspective, Horizon Zero Dawn, it wins easily. It's an amazing game. It just was way overshadowed. Obviously by the time of the release in Elden Ring, and then the hype behind that, and then catching up to God of War. I don't think it was ever gonna catch that, but yeah. So that was our thoughts on God of War Ragnarok, the supposed ending to the Norse mythology. It's not a trilogy, but only the 2 games that came out. So it's an amazing game. If you can, go play it. We have episodes, prior to this and shit. If you want to go listen to them, you can go to Spotify. It's the Believe Me If You Don't podcast. You can also go to anchor.fm/Believe Me If You Don't. You can go to YouTube if you just want to put it on, listen to it, and do something else. It's the Believe Me If You Don't podcast. Pretty same thing. And then if you want to follow our Twitter, it's @Spatchy123. That guy's an asshole for creating it like that. Anyways, any last thoughts before we go?
Thor's not fat.
You heard it here. Thor's not fat. For the other 2 people that are in here, you're awesome. Goodbye. And remember, you can continue to believe us.
If you don't.
Goodbye.